everyone, today I'm going to be showing you the basics of shading with colored pencils. I'm using Prismacolor colored pencils and have the specific ones I'm using listed out here to the right of my circle. I'll also be using black and white. Okay, let's get started. The first color I'm using is my lightest shade powder blue, number 1087. This is going to be my base color, so I'm lightly filling my whole circle with this color. I move my pencil in small circle motions to more easily blend my colors together, rather than coloring up and down or side to side in straight lines. It will make it easier to smoothly blend all our colors together. I realize it may not look like it from watching this video, but these are circular movements I'm doing. The most important technique is to press lightly, so give yourself time to build the colors up to be bright and bold. I'm going to leave a white space on my circle where I want the highlight to be. This will be for my white colored pencil at the end of my drawing. Once I've finished lightly shading my circle with my lightest color, I'm going to move on to my next color. This is number 904. I'm going to be using the exact same technique that I did with my first pencil, pressing lightly in circular motions. I do this throughout the whole circle, except when I get near my highlight area. I'm coloring even lighter around this area so I don't make any dark or harsh marks that would make a smooth blend more difficult later. When I've completed this layer, I move on to my next pencil, number 903, True Blue. Again, I use the same techniques to just continue to build the colors up slowly. I am adding a little bit more pressure on the left side of my circle at the edge, just to make it really pop at the end of my drawing. And you can see I'm still leaving a really big white space for my highlight in the circle. On to the next darkest shade, number 906. Again, coloring in circular motions and pressing lightly throughout the circle. And you may notice you can see a lot of white specks from the paper showing through still on our circle, but that's to be expected at this point, and we'll fix it by the end of our drawing. As we continue to layer our colors, they will slowly fill in the white specks. I'm now moving on to my darkest shade of blue, number 901, Indigo Blue. I'm starting to press a little harder on the right side of the circle as we've built up several layers already, and I'm okay with the right side of the circle being this dark. I use painter's tape to safely pick up any colored specks that may come off the pencil throughout my drawings. This happens more as you start pressing harder, and they can smear on the paper if you just brush them off. Once I've gone through all my colors, it's time to pretty much restart the entire process. I'm going back to my lightest blue and coloring over my whole circle again, pressing harder in the darker parts of the circle. This is when you really start to see those white specks getting filled in. I'm going back through all my colors in the same order from light to dark. It's okay to gradually press harder at this point to keep filling those white spaces in. It's also important at this point to be intentional with which color you're using and how much pressure you're using with it specifically. For example, when coloring with my darkest shade of blue, number 901, I press harder on the right side of my circle where I know it should end up that dark, and still press lightly where it begins to fade into the next shade up, 906. The blend between each color is still a very slow and lightly shaded process. At this point, I decided I left a little too much space for my white highlight, so I started slowly building my colors around the highlighted area to minimize the white space. I just repeated the same process of layering my colors until I was happy with the white space I had left. Now it's time for the black colored pencil. Since my shadow is on the right side of the circle, I'm going to add some black there over top of my dark blue. This helps give more depth to the circle and will make the blues really pop as they're contrasted with black. Since I've layered so much color already, I don't need to press super hard with the black pencil. It can easily build up on top of the dark blues. As you get further from the right side of the circle, press very lightly with the black so you don't make any unnecessary dark marks in the lighter blues. At this point, I'm grabbing some of my blues to just make sure the black is blended in smoothly. And you can see almost all of my white specks that were showing through are gone. If you still have any at this point, just take a lighter color, a lighter blue, and you can press harder in those areas and fill them in. It's finally time for the white colored pencil, which is my favorite part. I'm going to start with my white pencil in the center of the highlighted area where it isn't immediately coming into contact with any of the blue. The white pencil can pick up colored specks of other colors pretty easily, and it can accidentally get smeared on the paper, so I always start in a clean space to keep the whitest part of my highlight pure white. If it does get colored flakes on it, just be sure to wipe it off before you keep pressing it on the paper. I'll start out pressing lightly with my white pencil, but once I've covered over the area, I press pretty hard to really blend the colors. The white pencil is great for this. It can really smooth colors out and get rid of harsher lines you may not have meant to leave. Just press hard. And if there's a spot that isn't looking very smooth or blending easily, don't be afraid to really work on that area, pressing hard for a longer period of time in one spot. And just continue to use the white until you're happy with the blending and have smoothed out any mistakes or harsh lines. I usually grab a few of my lighter colors to finalize my blending after the white and make sure everything is as smooth, even, and bold as possible. And we're all done. Hopefully this helped you on your colored pencil journey. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more on colored pencils.